The trunk was suffocating. Ijeoma pressed her trembling hand against her mouth, forcing herself not to breathe too loudly as the car rumbled over another pothole. Every bump sent waves of terror through her body. If they found her now, if they opened this trunk, she knew exactly what Mrs. Vivian Cole did to girls who tried to escape. She'd seen what happened to Kimmy. But let's go back to the beginning, back to a small village in Enugu State, where a brilliant girl's dreams were about to be weaponized against her. Ijeoma Okafor wasn't supposed to be special. She came from the kind of poverty that wore the same clothes 3 days in a row, that ate gari for breakfast and dinner, that studied under kerosene lamps because there was no electricity. Her father was a struggling farmer. Her mother sold vegetables at the local market. They had 6 children, and Ijeoma was the third. But God, that girl was brilliant. From JSS 1, she devoured every textbook like it contained the secrets to escaping poverty. Because it did. Mathematics, English, sciences, she mastered them all with a hunger that left her teachers shaking their heads in wonder. By JSS 3, her name was engraved on every academic trophy in the school. Best overall student, best in mathematics, best in sciences, the scholarship girl, the pride of her village. That Okafor girl will go far, people whispered at the market. She'll become a doctor, maybe even study abroad. Her parents cried with joy every time she brought home another award. For once, poverty didn't feel like a life sentence. But there was one person who didn't celebrate Ijeoma's success: Chidimma Nwosu. Chidimma had been the undisputed queen of their class since JSS 1. First position, every award, every teacher's favorite. Her family was wealthy. Her father owned the biggest provision store in town. Her mother drove one of the only cars in the village. She had new uniforms every term while others patched theirs. She had her own textbooks while others borrowed. She had everything, except the first position. Not anymore. When Ijeoma arrived and quietly, methodically began dismantling Chidimma's academic reign, something dark took root in Chidimma's heart: jealousy, resentment, and then something far more sinister. By SS2, Chidimma wasn't just competing anymore, she was plotting. It was a Friday afternoon in SS3, 3 months before their final WIAC examinations. The school compound buzzed with students celebrating the end of another week. Chidimma approached Ijeoma with a smile that almost looked genuine. "Ijeoma, I've been meaning to talk to you." She looped her arm through Ijeoma's like they were old friends instead of quiet rivals. "You know you're brilliant, right? Everyone knows it." Ijeoma felt a flutter of suspicion, but Chidimma's warmth was disarming. "Thank you. Listen, my auntie works at this amazing spa in Lagos, prestigious beauty spa and hotel. It's huge. Celebrities go there, politicians' wives, very prestigious." Chidimma's eyes sparkled with manufactured excitement. "She told me they're looking for smart, trainable girls to work as apprentices. The pay is incredible, like 2,000 naira per month, plus accommodation and food. And they'll train you in professional makeup, hairstyling, everything." Ijeoma's heart leapt. 2,000 naira? That was more money she'd seen in her entire life. With that kind of money, she could help her parents, buy textbooks for her younger siblings, save for university fees when her secondary school scholarship ended. "Really?" she breathed. "Yes, but here's the thing. They're interviewing this Friday, today, after school. We'd have to go straight there." Chidimma squeezed her arm. "I thought of you immediately because you're so smart and hardworking. This could change your life, Ijeoma. You could help your family and secure your university education." Every word was a carefully baited hook. "But I should tell my parents first, get my bag, my documents." No, this is just the interview. If you get the position, you can go back and get your things before you start. But if we miss today's interview, the positions will be filled. My auntie said they've had over 50 applications already." The pressure felt real, the opportunity too good to refuse. "Okay," Ijeoma said, her voice trembling with hope and nerves. "Let's go." She had no idea she was walking into a trap. The journey to Lagos took 4 hours by bus. Chidimma paid for everything: bus fare, food, drinks, waving away her protests with generous smiles. When they finally arrived at prestigious beauty spa and hotel, Ijeoma's breath caught in her throat. It was the most beautiful building she'd ever seen. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers. Women emerged from the spa looking like they'd stepped out of magazine covers. The hotel bar buzzed with sophisticated laughter and clinking glasses. Everything screamed luxury, success, legitimacy. "See?" Chidimma whispered, watching Ijeoma's odd expression with secret satisfaction. They were led to an elegant office where a well-dressed woman named Mrs. Vivian Cole greeted them with a smile sharp as glass. "So this is the brilliant village girl you told me about, Chidimma." Mrs. Vivian's eyes assessed Ijeoma like she was livestock at market. "Impressive academic record, hardworking, humble background. That means she'll be grateful for opportunities." The interview was brief, too brief, Ijeoma would later realize. "We can offer you 2,000 naira per month during your apprenticeship. After 1 month, if you prove yourself, it goes up to 3,500 naira, plus accommodation, meals, and professional training that people pay thousands to receive." Ijeoma's head spun. It wasn't a dream, it was a miracle. "There's just one requirement," Mrs. Cole continued smoothly. "You must live on the premises during your apprenticeship. This is for security reasons and to ensure you're available for early morning clients. It's standard practice in high-end spas." I should go back to my village first, tell my parents, pack my things." "No need." Mrs. Cole's smile never wavered. "We provide uniforms, toiletries, everything you need. And frankly, my dear, if you leave now to think about it, I'll have to give the position to one of the other applicants. We have 17 girls starting Monday. This is a now or never opportunity." The pressure was suffocating, the opportunity too good to refuse. Okay, I'll stay." "Wonderful." Mrs. Cole pressed a buzzer on her desk. "Take her to orientation." As Ijeoma was led away by a supervisor, she glanced back to wave at Chidimma, but her classmate was busy counting a thick envelope of cash that Mrs. Cole had just handed her. Their eyes met for one brief moment, and Ijeoma saw something that made her blood freeze. Chidimma wasn't smiling anymore. She looked satisfied, victorious. Then the door closed, and Ijeoma was led deeper into the building. By the time she realized what that envelope meant, it was far too late. That same Friday evening, panic erupted in the Okafor household. "Ijeoma didn't come home from school," her mother wailed, clutching her youngest child. "Where is my daughter? Where is my daughter?" Her father gathered men from the village. They searched everywhere: the school, her friends' houses, the market, the church, even the dangerous paths leading to the river where foolish teenagers sometimes wandered. Nothing. By Sunday, the entire village was searching. Ijeoma's teachers, her classmates, the local vigilante group, even the pastor announced it in church. "If anyone has seen Ijeoma Okafor, please come forward. Her family is desperate." And there, in the third pew, sat Chidimma Nuosu, crying. "I can't believe this is happening," sheebed in anyone who would listen. "Ijeoma is my friend. She's so smart, so kind. Maybe she went to see a boyfriend in the city. You know how teenage girls can be impulsive." She dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Her performance was masterful. Most people bought it, but not everyone. Mr. Okonkwo, their economics teacher, sat in the back of the church with his arms folded, watching Chidimma's theatrical display with narrowed eyes. Something felt wrong. He'd been teaching for 30 years. He knew the difference between genuine grief and performance. And there was something else nagging at his memory, something he'd seen Friday afternoon. Beside him, a quiet girl named Ngozi fidgeted nervously. She'd seen something too, seen Chidimma and Ijeoma leaving the school compound together, heading toward the motor park, together, laughing. But Ngozi said nothing. She was terrified of Chidimma's family. The Nuosus were rich, powerful, and rumored to be connected to dangerous people. Speaking against them could bring serious trouble, so she, like Mr. Okonkwo, kept her silence. And Chidimma went home, locked her door, and counted her blood money, 5,000 naira, the price of her rival's freedom. That Monday, when school resumed, Chidimma reclaimed the first position in class. She smiled as she accepted the Student of the Week certificate. Everything was back as it should be. The first week was perfect, too perfect. Ijeoma learned facial treatments, makeup application, hair braiding. She slept in a clean dormitory with other apprentices. She ate 3 meals a day, more food than she'd sometimes seen in a week back home.
The other spa workers were friendly. She even got her first uniform with her name embroidered on it, Ijeoma, apprentice. Every night she fell asleep thinking about her first paycheck, how she'd save most of it, but buy her mother a new wrapper, how her father's face would light up, how her siblings would finally have new school supplies. She wrote a letter home, they'd promised to mail it for her, explaining everything, apologizing for leaving suddenly, promising to visit soon with money and gifts. The letter was never sent. It went straight into Mrs. Cole's shredder. On the 8th day, everything changed. Mrs. Cole wants to see you in her private office, a supervisor said, smiling in a way that made Ijeoma's skin crawl. Pride swelled in her chest. Maybe she'd impressed them. Maybe they were promoting her early. She followed the supervisor through the spa, past the reception desk, through a door marked staff only. They walked down a long, dim corridor, through a heavy steel door, then another, then another. The temperature dropped. The air grew stale. The sounds of the spa, music, laughter, hair dryers faded away until there was only silence and the echo of their footsteps. Finally, they emerged into a courtyard Ijeoma had never seen. Her blood turned to ice. Girls everywhere, young girls, some now older than 15, pregnant girls with hands on swollen bellies, girls with hollow, dead eyes, armed guards, barred windows, high walls topped with barbed wire. This wasn't a spa. This was a prison.
"Welcome to your real job," the supervisor said. In Mrs. Cole's office, the mask finally came off. "I'm sure you're confused," Mrs. Cole said, pouring herself a glass of wine. "Let me clarify your situation. That apprenticeship was a trial period. We needed to ensure you were healthy, compliant, and intelligent. Congratulations, you passed." I don't understand. Your actual job is simple. You will entertain select clients at our hotel bar. You will become pregnant by carefully chosen fathers. You will carry the pregnancy to term. You will be compensated. Then, if you've been cooperative, you'll repeat the process. After 3 successful births, you'll be released with enough money to start a new life. The room tilted. This couldn't be real. Three babies? Ijeoma whispered. "Some girls have done 5, 6. It's quite lucrative for everyone involved." Mrs. Cole sipped her wine like they were discussing weather. "Your babies will go to wealthy families who desperately want children. You're providing a service, really, creating miracles for people who can't have their own." "No," the word came out strangled. "No. I came here for a spa job. I'm going home. My family." "Your family thinks you ran away or got lost in Lagos. We've dealt with girls like you before. No one is looking for you here." Mrs. Cole's expression hardened. "And let me be crystal clear, you cannot leave. You signed employment papers. Yes, those papers you signed during orientation were binding contracts. You accepted accommodation, food, training. You're in debt to this establishment. The only way you're leaving is by completing your contract, or..." She let the sentence hang like a noose. "Or what?" "Or by dying. We had a girl named Kimmy who got difficult. She threatened to go to the police after her 5th baby. We couldn't allow that." Mrs. Cole's smile was a knife. "She's not with us anymore." Ijeoma's legs gave out. She collapsed into a chair, her brilliant mind finally understanding the trap that had been laid for her, the trap her own classmate had helped spring. "You're a smart girl, Ijeoma. That's exactly why Chidimma recommended you. Smart girls have healthy babies. Healthy babies bring premium prices." Mrs. Cole pressed a button on her desk. "Take her to processing. Let her think about her choices tonight. Tomorrow she'll tell me if she wants to cooperate or if she wants to find out what happened to Kimmy." That night, locked in a small room with 3 other girls, Ijeoma finally understood the full horror of her situation. The girl in the bed next to hers was named Blessing. She was 19 and 7 months pregnant with her 2nd child. "They took my first baby when she was 3 hours old," Blessing whispered in the darkness. "I didn't even get to name her.
I just heard her cry, and then she was gone. They told me if I cooperate, after 3 babies, they'll let me go with 500,000 naira. That's life-changing. Money enough to start a business, go to school, help my family. Do you believe them? Ijeoma asked. Blessing was quiet for a long time. I have to, because if I don't believe them, I'll go crazy like Kimmy did. What happened to Kimmy? She'd been here 6 years, had 4 babies. When they came for her 5th baby, a beautiful baby girl, Kimmy just broke, started screaming, fighting the guards, threatening to report the baby factory to every newspaper and police station in Lagos. 2 days later, they came for Kimmy at midnight. We heard her screaming as they dragged her. We never saw her again. But the next week, they gathered us all in the courtyard, and Mrs. Cole said, "This is what happens to girls who forget their place." Ijeoma pressed her fist against her mouth to keep from sobbing. She thought about her parents back in the village, frantic with worry, her siblings wondering where their brilliant sister had gone, her teachers shaking their heads sadly, her scholarship, her awards, her dreams of university, all of it gone, stolen by a girl who'd smiled while handing her over to monsters. "There was almost a raid once," said another girl from across the room. Her name was Grace. "Someone must have reported us. We heard the rumors spreading. Government coming, police coming. We were so hopeful." "What happened?" Mrs. Cole came to the back compound for the first time anyone could remember. She gathered us all and said, "The governor himself dines at my hotel. Police commissioners drink at my bar. Judges get special treatments at my spa. I own them all. There will be no raid. There will be no rescue. There is only obedience." And she was right. No one came. No one ever comes. The next morning, Ijeoma was brought back to Mrs. Cole's office. "Have you made your decision?" Mrs. Cole asked, examining her manicured nails. Every instinct screamed at Ijeoma to refuse, to fight, to die on her feet rather than live as livestock. But then she thought about Kimmy, about the permanent silence that had swallowed a girl who'd fought openly. If she died here, no one would ever know the truth. Her family would never know what happened to her. The baby factory would keep operating, keep destroying girls' lives. She needed to survive long enough to find a way out, to expose this place. "I'll cooperate," Ijeoma said, the words tasting like poison. "Smart girl. See, I knew Chidimma chose well." They moved Ijeoma to a different section, the one for compliant girls, girls who'd accepted their fate or learned to pretend. These girls worked the hotel bar at night, dressed in tight clothes, laughing at men's jokes, drinking watered-down cocktails, waiting to be chosen for pregnancy. It was disgusting, degrading, soul-destroying. But Ijeoma played along. She smiled when required, she worked when ordered, she pretended to accept her imprisonment. And she watched. She studied the compound, guard rotations, door locks, camera blind spots, the schedule of deliveries, the moments when security was weakest. 3 weeks in, an older woman approached her during a medical checkup. Her name was Agnes, one of the midwives who worked in the compound. "You're the smart one from the village, the one who won all the scholarships." "How do you know that?" Agnes's eyes filled with tears. "Because I came here 5 years ago looking for my daughter. She was 15, missing. Someone told me they'd seen her at this place. I came demanding answers. They grabbed me, drugged me, and when I woke up, I was locked in a room. They said I could either work for them as a nurse or die. So I worked. I'm still working. And my daughter..." She couldn't finish the sentence. "I'm so sorry," Ijeoma breathed. "Listen to me carefully," Agnes whispered urgently. "I've helped 3 girls escape in 5 years. 2 were caught and killed. 1 made it. I don't know if she's alive, but she made it out of this building. If you want to try, I'll help you. But it's dangerous. If we're caught..." "I'll take that risk." Agnes studied Ijeoma's face, then nodded slowly. "There's a medical supply delivery coming Friday. You'll be assigned to help move boxes from the hotel side. They always need extra hands. That's when you run. I'll create a distraction. There's a staff uniform hidden in the third supply closet on the left. Change quickly. Walk out like you belong there. Don't run until you're past the parking lot. Do you understand? Yes. And, Ijeoma, if you make it out, if you survive, you have to tell the world about this place, for my daughter, for all of us. Friday came with agonizing slowness. Ijeoma barely slept the night before. Every nightmare featured guards catching her, Mrs. Cole's cold smile, the same fate as Kimmy. But when morning came, she forced herself to eat breakfast, to act normal, to show no signs of the terror coursing through her veins.
At 2 p.m., the call came. All available girls to the delivery bay. Medical supplies need unloading. This was it. Ijeoma and 5 other girls were escorted through the steel doors, through the corridors, emerging into the hotel side of the building. For the first time in a month, she could see the public areas, the spa, the lobby, the bar, the parking lot. Freedom was so close she could taste it. They began unloading boxes from a truck. Guards watched lazily from the shade. It was a familiar routine, nothing special. Then Agnes appeared, carrying a tray of medical instruments. She walked past the truck, stumbled, and sent the entire tray crashing to the concrete with an explosive crash. Glass vials shattered. Metal instruments scattered everywhere. "What is wrong with you?" a supervisor screamed. Every head turned. Guards rushed to help. In that chaos, in those precious 15 seconds, Ijeoma slipped away. She ducked into the third supply closet on the left. Her hands shook so violently she could barely grip the staff uniform Agnes had hidden behind cleaning supplies. She ripped off the compliant girl clothes, the tight dress, the heels, and pulled on the spa uniform. Name tag, clipboard, professional expression. She took 1 breath, 2, then opened the door and walked out. Through the delivery bay, past distracted guards, into the hotel lobby. Walk naturally. You belong here. You're just a staff member. Walk naturally. Past the reception desk. The receptionist didn't even glance up. Through the automatic doors, into the parking lot. She saw a car with an open trunk, the driver inside, signing paperwork for his delivery. Ijeoma glanced around. No one watching. This was her only chance. She climbed into that trunk and pulled it closed, plunging herself into absolute darkness. Her heart hammered so loudly she was certain someone would hear it. The metal pressed against her spine. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe properly, could only wait, pray, and hope that this wouldn't be her coffin. After an eternity, the driver returned. The car door slammed, the engine started, and the car began to move. Away from the hotel, away from the baby factory, away from the nightmare. Ijeoma bit down on her fist to keep from sobbing in relief. She'd done it. She'd actually escaped. But escape was only the beginning. The car drove for 30 minutes before finally stopping. Ijeoma waited in the suffocating darkness, counting to 200 before finding the emergency trunk release. The trunk popped open. She tumbled out onto an unfamiliar Lagos street, somewhere in Ijeoma, based on the street signs, miles from the baby factory. The driver was already gone, oblivious to his stowaway. Ijeoma stood on shaking legs and took her first breath of free air in a month. Then reality crashed down like a tidal wave. She had no money, no phone, no identification. She was wearing a stolen spa uniform in a city of 20 million people, and she couldn't even remember her own address at the baby factory to report it to police. Not that she knew where the nearest station was. She was free, but she was lost, alone, terrified. For 3 days, Ijeoma survived on the streets of Lagos. She begged for food, slept in doorways, dodged police who would arrest her for loitering. She tried telling her story to anyone who would listen. "Please, I was kidnapped. There's a baby factory." "Baby factory? You're crazy. Get away from my shop." "Please, I just need to call my parents." "Do I look like MTN? Move along." "There are girls trapped there. They're being forced to." Another one of these scam stories. If you want money, at least be creative. No one believed her. Or worse, they believed her but didn't care. Lagos had too many problems already. On the fourth night, hungry and desperate, Ijeoma made the most painful decision of her life. She approached a man outside a bar, negotiated a price, let him take her to a nearby guest house, endured 20 minutes of humiliation that felt like 20 hours. He paid her 3,000 naira and left without a word. Ijeoma sat on that dirty guest house bed and cried until she had no tears left. She'd escaped the baby factory only to sell herself anyway. The irony was crushing. But that money meant transportation. That money meant home. The next morning, she found the motor park, bought a ticket to Enugu, and boarded a bus heading east. Back to her village, back to her family, back to the truth. When Ijeoma walked into her family compound 1 week after her escape, her mother screamed, "Ijeoma, my daughter, you're alive." Her father dropped his hoe and ran, tears streaming down his weathered face. Her siblings erupted from the house, shouting and crying. Neighbors rushed over, forming a crowd of shocked, jubilant witnesses. "We thought you were dead," her mother sobbed, clutching Ijeoma like she might disappear again. "We searched everywhere. The police said you probably ran away or was kidnapped and sold. Where have you been?" Inside their small house, surrounded by her family, Ijeoma told them everything. The job offer, the beautiful lie, Chidimma's betrayal, the baby factory, Mrs. Vivian Cole, Kimmy's disappearance, Nurse Agnes's help, the escape, the horrible price she'd paid to get home. Her mother wept, her father's hands curled into fists, her siblings stared in horror. "Chidimma did this," her father said, his voice shaking with rage. "That Nwasu girl, she sold you." "She sold me to get rid of her academic competition," Ijeoma said bitterly. "She wanted her first position back, and Mrs. Cole paid her for bringing a smart, healthy village girl to the factory." "We have to go to the police," her mother cried. "The police are bought," Ijeoma said, remembering Mrs. Cole's confident smirk. "She has governors, commissioners, judges, all of them in her pocket. That's why no one's ever stopped her." "Then what do we do?" her father asked helplessly. Ijeoma was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "We wait. We let Chidimma think she's won. And when the time is right, we expose her in front of everyone." For the next 2 months, Ijeoma stayed hidden at home, regaining her strength, eating her mother's cooking, trying to reclaim pieces of herself that the baby factory had stolen. Her parents wanted to confront Chidimma immediately, but Ijeoma convinced them to wait. "If we accuse her now, her family's money and power will bury the truth. We need the right moment, the right audience." Meanwhile, back at the school, life continued as if nothing had happened. Chidimma reclaimed every award Ijeoma had won. Best in mathematics, best in English, best overall student. She accepted each certificate with a humble smile, playing the role of the concerned friend who still mourned her missing classmate. "I just wish Ijeoma were here to see how well we're all doing," she said during assembly, dabbing at manufactured tears. "She inspired us all to work harder." The teachers nodded approvingly. Most students bought the performance. But Mr. Okonkwo watched from the staff section, his suspicions growing darker each day. And Ngozi, the quiet girl who'd seen Chidimma and Ijeoma leave together that Friday, felt guilt eating her alive. In the city, Mrs. Vivian Cole noticed Ijeoma's disappearance immediately. She ordered a lockdown, interrogated every girl, every guard, every staff member. Someone had helped the village girl escape. Someone had betrayed her. Nurse Agnes was brought before Mrs. Cole. But the old woman's decades of living with fear had made her an excellent liar. "I have no idea how she got out. Maybe she picked a lock. She was very intelligent." Mrs. Cole didn't believe her, but without proof, she couldn't act. Agnes remained under watch, praying every night that Ijeoma had made it home safely. The baby factory continued operating. More girls were brought in. More bobbies were born and sold. The machine kept grinding. But a clock was ticking toward Judgment Day. The day of the SS3 graduation ceremony arrived like divine appointment. It was the biggest event of the school year. Hundreds of students, parents, teachers, local government officials, even traditional rulers attended. There would be awards, speeches, celebrations, the crowning of the year's best overall student. Everyone expected Chidimma and Wasu to claim that final, ultimate prize. The ceremony was in full swing. Students in their graduation gowns, parents taking pictures, the principal giving a long-winded speech about excellence and the future. Then, from the back of the outdoor auditorium, a commotion. "Stop this ceremony." Everyone turned. Ijeoma Okafor stood at the entrance, flanked by her parents and 3 stern-looking men holding walking sticks, village elders. She wore a simple dress and her old school uniform, and her eyes burned with righteous fury. The auditorium erupted in chaos. "It's Ijeoma," students screamed. "She's alive. She's back. What happened to her?" Teachers leaped to their feet. Parents gasped. The principal's mouth fell open. And Chidimma and Wasu went white as a ghost. "I have something to say." Ijeoma's voice rang out, clear and strong. "And everyone needs to hear it." The principal, flustered and confused, signaled for silence. "Ijeoma, my God, child, where have you been? We've been worried sick." "I've been in a baby factory in Lagos," Ijeoma said, her voice cutting through the shocked silence. "Kidnapped, imprisoned, almost forced to bear children who would be sold to the highest bidder. I spent a month in hell because someone in this auditorium sold me to human traffickers." You could have heard a pin drop. "Who?" the principal demanded, his face darkening. "Who did this to you?" Ijeoma's gaze locked onto Chidimma like a laser. "Chidimma and Wasu. She lured me to Lagos with a fake job offer, delivered me to Mrs. Vivian Cole's baby factory, collected her payment, and came back here to reclaim the academic position I'd taken from her. She sold me to get rid of her competition." The auditorium exploded. "What? No, that's impossible. Chidimma would never." But Mr. Okonkwo stood up, his face grave. "I saw them. On that Friday afternoon when Ijeoma disappeared, I saw her and Chidimma leaving the school compound together, heading toward the motor park. I thought it was strange, but I said nothing." Then Ngozi rose shakily, tears streaming down her face. "I saw them too. They left together, talking and laughing. I've been too scared to speak up because of Chidimma's family, but I saw them." All eyes turned to Chidimma. She stood frozen in her seat, her graduation gown suddenly feeling like prison clothes. Her parents rose beside her, faces twisted with rage. "How dare you accuse our daughter?" her father roared. "She would never." "Then let her explain," one of the village elders said coldly. "Let her tell us where she was that Friday afternoon. Let her explain why 2 witnesses saw her leaving with Ijeoma. Let her explain why she cried so dramatically when the girl went missing, yet showed no real effort to search for her." The principal turned to Chidimma, his expression hard. "Well, what do you have to say?" Chidimma opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. The lies wouldn't come. Not here, not now, not with hundreds of eyes boring into her soul. I didn't mean for it to go so far," she whispered. The auditorium gasped. "What does that mean?" the principal demanded. And then, like a dam breaking, the truth poured out. "She took everything from me." Chidimma's voice cracked, tears streaming down her face, real tears this time, not performance. "I was first in class for 3 years. Everyone knew I was the best. My parents were so proud. And then she showed up, this village girl with her torn uniform and her borrowed textbooks, and she just took my position, my awards, my recognition. It wasn't fair." "So you sold her to traffickers?" a teacher screamed. "I didn't know it was that bad. I thought they'd just make her work at the spa for a few months, keep her away from school, and by the time she came back, I'd have already graduated as the top student." Chidimma was sobbing now, her carefully constructed facade crumbling. "Mrs. Cole's agent approached me at the market 6 months ago. She said they needed smart, pretty girls for their spa. She said they'd pay me 5,000 naira for every girl I brought. I thought it was just a job referral." "You thought a legitimate spa would pay you 5,000 naira to recruit workers?" Mr. Okonkwo's voice dripped with disgust. "You knew exactly what you were doing." "I didn't know about the baby factory, I swear. I just wanted her gone for a few months. I wanted my position back." Chidimma turned desperately to Ijeoma. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know they would do that to you." "But you knew something was wrong," Ijeoma said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "You knew no legitimate business pays students to recruit their classmates. You knew I didn't come back. You knew my family was searching everywhere. And you said nothing. You collected your blood money and watched my parents cry." Chidimma collapsed into her seat, her graduation gown pooling around her like a deflated balloon. Her father's face had gone from red with rage to gray with horror. Her mother stood frozen, unable to speak. The principal turned to the village elders. "We need to involve the police immediately." "Already done," one of the elders said. "We came here with officers waiting outside. We wanted the truth witnessed by everyone first." Within an hour, police vehicles surrounded the school compound. Chidimma was arrested for human trafficking and kidnapping, crimes that carried mandatory prison sentences. But Ijeoma wasn't finished. "Mrs. Vivian Cole's baby factory is still operating in Lagos," she told the senior police officer. "There are dozens of girls trapped there right now. Pregnant girls. Girls who have had their bobbies stolen. They're guarded, locked up, treated like breeding animals. And Mrs. Cole has been bribing police and government officials for years. That's why no one's ever stopped her." The officer's face darkened. "Do you know the exact location?" "Prestigious beauty spa and hotel. I can draw you a map of the entire compound. The front is legitimate, but the back is where they keep the girls. High walls, barbed wire, armed guards." "This is a serious allegation," the officer said carefully. "Mrs. Cole is a well-known businesswoman with connections." "Which is exactly why she's gotten away with it for so long." Ijeoma's voice rose. "Sir, I was there, I lived it. There's a woman named Nurse Agnes trapped there. She was kidnapped 5 years ago searching for her own daughter. She helped me escape. She's the only kind person in that entire hellhole, and she's being held prisoner. Please, you have to help them." The officer studied Ijeoma's face. The conviction, the trauma, the absolute certainty of truth. Then he made a decision. "We'll contact the DSS. This requires a joint operation." He turned to his subordinates. "Get her full statement, get descriptions of everyone involved, and contact Lagos Command immediately." What Ijeoma didn't know was that Mrs. Vivian Cole had been on the DSS watch list for 2 years. There had been rumors, whispers, anonymous tips, but never any solid evidence, never any witnesses willing to testify. Cole's web of bribery had protected her perfectly. Until now. 3 days later, at 4:47 a.m., a combined force of DSS operatives, federal police, and NAPTIP, National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, surrounded prestigious beauty spa and hotel. Inside the back compound, Nurse Agnes was doing her morning rounds when she heard the helicopters, then the megaphones. "This is the Department of State SCRVICES. This building is SURROUNDED. All EXITS are blocked. Come out with your hands up." The girls began screaming, not in fear, but in hope, in disbelief. In the first real emotion many of them had felt in months or years. "They came," Agnes whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Someone told them they actually came." Mrs. Vivian Cole tried to run. She made it to the underground parking garage, into her Mercedes, keys in hand. But DSS operatives were already there, guns drawn. "Step out of the vehicle, hands where we can see them." For the first time in her criminal career, Vivian Cole's money and connections couldn't save her. Not from this. Not from federal agents with arrest warrants and media cameras recording everything. The raid took 6 hours. They found 37 girls in the back compound. 12 were pregnant. 4 had given birth within the past month, their bobbies already sold and gone. The youngest was 14. The oldest had been there for 7 years. They found medical records documenting every pregnancy, every birth, every sale. Mrs. Cole had kept meticulous records. Her arrogance and greed had created a perfect evidence trail. They arrested Mrs. Cole, her 3 supervisors, 2 doctors, and 11 staff members who'd knowingly participated in the trafficking operation. They also arrested 4 police officers and 2 local government officials who'd been on Cole's payroll, accepting bribes to ignore reports and warnings. And they found Nurse Agnes. When the operatives burst into the medical wing, Agnes was holding a newborn whose mother, a 16-year-old girl, had delivered 3 hours earlier. "Are you Agnes Obi?" an operative asked. "Yes," she whispered, terrified they were there to punish her for being complicit. "Your daughter has been looking for you. Her name is Chidimma. She reported you missing 5 years ago. She never stopped searching." Agnes collapsed, the baby still safe in her arms, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. She was going home. After 5 years of imprisonment, 5 years of forced complicity in crimes that haunted her dreams, 5 years of surviving just to help one more girl escape, she was finally going home. During the investigation, Nurse Agnes gave a statement that shook everyone who heard it. "I came here 5 years ago looking for my daughter. She was 15, a bright girl who disappeared after school one day. Someone told me they'd seen her at this place, prestigious beauty spa. I came demanding answers." "What happened?" the investigator asked gently. "Mrs. Cole herself met with me. She was so calm, so professional. She said, 'Your daughter, I remember her, pretty girl. She worked here for 2 weeks, then left with some boyfriend. Didn't even collect her final pay.' But something felt wrong. I insisted on seeing the back rooms, the hotel, everywhere. I caused a scene, started shouting about calling the police." Agnes's voice cracked. "That's when they grabbed me, 2 security guards. They drugged me. I woke up 12 hours later in a locked room. Mrs. Cole told me I had 2 choices, work for them as a midwife and nurse, or they'd kill me and dispose of my body. She said it so casually, like she was offering me tea or coffee." "Did you ever find out what happened to your daughter?" Agnes closed her eyes, tears leaking out. "6 months into my captivity, one of the girls let it slip. My daughter had been there. She'd been trafficked, forced to get pregnant. She'd had a baby boy, but during delivery there were complications. She hemorrhaged. They didn't take her to a hospital, too risky, too many questions. She bled to death on the same medical table where I later delivered other girls' bobbies." The investigator had to pause the recording because he was crying. "Mrs. Cole told me later when she was drunk at a staff party," Agnes continued, her voice hollow. "She said, 'Your daughter's baby sold for 800,000 naira to a couple in Abuja. Premium price for a light-skinned boy. She served her purpose.'" "I'm so sorry," the investigator whispered. "I survived by helping girls escape when I could. 3 in 5 years, 2 were caught and killed, but Ijeoma made it. When I heard about the raid, heard that a girl had testified and led you here, I knew it was her. She was so smart, so strong. She promised me she'd tell the world about this place." Agnes smiled through her tears. "She kept her promise. She saved us all." Because of her cooperation and her role in helping Ijeoma escape, Agnes was granted immunity from prosecution. The investigators concluded she'd been a victim herself, forced into complicity under threat of death. 3 months later, Agnes was released. Her daughter Chidimma, now 20 years old, who'd never stopped searching for her mother, was waiting outside the police station. They held each other and cried for an hour straight. The trial of Mrs. Vivian Cole became one of the most publicized trafficking cases in history. The evidence was overwhelming. Medical records, financial transactions, testimony from 37 rescued girls, statements from staff members who accepted plea deals, and Ijeoma's detailed account of her kidnapping and imprisonment. Mrs. Cole was convicted on 47 counts: human trafficking, kidnapping, child abuse, conspiracy, bribery, running a criminal enterprise, and illegal adoption facilitation. She was sentenced to 65 years in prison with no possibility of parole. Her supervisors received sentences ranging from 25 to 40 years. The corrupt police officers and government officials were dismissed from service and given prison sentences of their own. Chidimma Nwasu was convicted of human trafficking and conspiracy. Because she was 17 at the time of the crime, she was sentenced to 12 years in a juvenile facility to be transferred to adult prison when she turned 18. Her family's wealth couldn't buy her freedom, not from federal charges with video-recorded confessions and multiple witnesses. Her parents never recovered from the shame. Her father's business suffered. Neighbors whispered. The family name became synonymous with betrayal. The 37 rescued girls faced long, difficult roads to recovery. NAPTIP provided counseling, medical care, and rehabilitation support. Some returned to their families. Others, whose families had rejected them or couldn't be found, were placed in sheltered homes. 4 girls were reunited with bobbies who were recovered from buyers before final adoptions were processed. The joy of those reunions was tempered by the knowledge that dozens of other children were already lost in the system, adopted by unsuspecting families or worse, sold to ritualists and cultists who left no trail. One girl, Blessing, the one who'd shared a room with Ijeoma, returned to school and eventually became a social worker, dedicating her life to helping trafficking survivors. Another started a support group called Breaking Chains that provided counseling and job training for women escaping exploitation. They were survivors, warriors, women who refused to let their trauma define them. For Ijeoma, the aftermath was complicated. She'd lost a year of school. Her scholarship needed to be renegotiated. Her WAEC exams had to be rescheduled. Universities that had sent her admission offers had moved on to other students. But she didn't give up. With support from NAPTIP, several NGOs, and donations from people who'd followed her story, Ijeoma returned to school. She retook her WAEC exams and scored 8 A's and 1 B, still brilliant, still unstoppable. She was admitted to the University of Lagos to study law. "I'm going to be a prosecutor," she told her parents. "I'm going to put people like Mrs. Cole in prison. I'm going to fight for girls who can't fight for themselves." During her first semester, she was invited to speak at an anti-trafficking conference. She stood before government officials, NGO workers, students, and activists, and she told her story. Not the sanitized version, not the easy version, the real, raw, painful truth. When she finished, she said, "What happened to me happens to thousands of girls every year in our country. Fake job offers, false promises, girls disappearing into baby factories, brothels, organ harvesting operations, domestic slavery. We are being hunted by predators who see us as products, not people. But I'm here to tell you, we are not products. We are not commodities. We are human beings with dreams, potential, and rights, and we will not be silent anymore." The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. And so ends the tale of Ijeoma and the baby factory.
A story of betrayal and survival, of silence and courage, of darkness and the light that exposes it. May we all have Ijeoma's strength when tested, Agnes's mercy when broken, and the wisdom to speak truth even when truth is costly. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, share it. Stories have power. Your voice has power. Until the next tale,